all of this talk of Sanders people, or people who supported Sanders, attacking Beto as if it's some kind of conspiracy, as opposed to just accounting Beto's record, is particularly with Beto trying to, or supposedly all of this hoopla and talk about him getting into the presidential process. I kind of want to put a stake in reality here. I mean, ultimately, we can't necessarily always know what takes place outside of us. Everything, to some degree, most things, are secondhand or even third-hand information that we accept either to be true or false, meaning that even in the reception of information, there's somewhat of a choice that's being made on whether to accept that information, and larger still, how that information constructs a reality. This reality is going to be different to each individual, of course, but there are certain things that do happen outside of us, and even if I can't know with precision the width and the length and the detail of each particular item, you do get somewhat of a larger contour of an event that took place that you can say this event took place. And so I want to make sure that we're clear on what's reality here versus not. I am unaware of any event taking place with a bunch of Sanders people saying they need to attack Beto. I am aware of an event that took place in early 2018 of fundraisers, donors, essentially investors into the political candidate and Democrats on how to stop Bernie Sanders, particularly Bernie Sanders' wing of the party, and to put a squash on the messaging, essentially the populist rhetoric. I find this meeting to be somewhat amazing, but that meeting takes place. Now, the key point here that I want to nail down is they hate the left. They hate the left, I would argue, probably even more than they hate the Republican Party. Because the left is like everybody's aspect of self, the darker brother. But it's the darker brother that reveals their failures and their failings. The real left, they believe in real things, where this stuff isn't just the issue of politics, that you want to actually get policy things accomplished, is what the Democratic Party used to be. And in many respects, what they are not. And what it plagues them that they're not, seeing as the language that they use in order to talk about politics is taken from this particular left. They try to make themselves as pragmatic. And they thought that they had drowned this left in a bathtub with New Deal politics. Well, apparently, not so much. And as the difficulties in society grows, so does the strength of this left grows. They look at this as a massive threat. The article said that it terrifies them that these guys, or the left, is getting a resurgence. They're dealing with their donors in order to stop ideas that the majority of the population agrees with. Put that in perspective. This is what the Democratic Party is, and this is what the Democratic Party is doing. When you have the philosophical responsibility of dealing with actual real people issues, and the language that you use in order to coat your behavior is in this type of real people issues thing, pretending to do so, it looks bad when you have another group that says, we believe in those things, we are going to represent those things. It makes the centrists at this point looks utterly useless, particularly in a two-party system where one side supposedly is the left and the other side is not. I'm going to go through this article. It is telling that the people who they have around them are not people who are in labor, not people who represent their workers, not people who represent the individuals themselves of the society, but they're donors. They have a fundraiser with billionaires and millionaires in figuring out, hey, how do we stop people from paying less for their health care? How do we keep those wages up, keep those things expensive? How do we not help people get Social Security? How do we not help college, or people pay essentially the thing for college? The propositions in this are new neoliberal politics. This idea of markets being more important than human beings. And in the entirety of this, it's how do we sell new neoliberalism? How do we sell that markets are the thing and privatization is the thing? How do we sell that to a generation that doesn't necessarily believe in those things, and at the very least doesn't like those things, hence the popularity of the left. That was their meeting. They came out with propositions, things that would compete against Social Security. Like, it's amazing. And even saying, we're not going to be against the rich. I mean, after all, these are the guys who are funding us and putting money in our pockets. Let's take a look at this article. And this is just kind of a heads up. This took place in July. But all of this talk of, they're conspiring to stop Beto. Let's be very clear on who is conspiring and who's been dealing with their investors to stop who. Sanders' wing of the party terrifies moderate Democrats. Here's how they plan to stop it. Party members and fundraisers gathered for an invitation-only event to figure out how to counteract the rising popular or progressive movement. I love that. That's amazing. The anxiety has largely been kept to a whisper among the party moderates and big donors, with some of the major fundraisers pressing operatives on what can be done to stop Sanders. Think about what we're saying here. People with big wallets that give Democratic Party a lot of money, not representing the interests of their constituents. This is representing the interests of their donors. That's what we're saying here. This is a damning proposition of what's taking place. It's one thing if people in a neighborhood got together in order to come on. No. They're donors. They're donors. Millionaires and billionaires. Essentially putting their leverage into the political system. Not what the 99% wants, not what the population needs, but what their donors require. It's fucking amazing. The anxiety has largely been kept to whispers, with some of the major fundraisers pressing operatives on what could be done to stop Sanders if he runs for president again. But the first ever Opportunity 2020 convention, organized here last week by Third Way, a moderate Democratic think tank, gave a middle-of-the-road party members a safe space. I love that! They needed a safe space. That's so sweet. Oh, that's so sweet. They needed a safe space to articulate, essentially, right-wing dribble. And in fact, they even make note that part of the problem with the Sanders wing of the party is that they would lose Republicans. Like the Republicans that they didn't get. You've lost 1,100 seats all throughout the United States. And I'm amazed that they still say, even though we've lost so much, we still have answers. We still have answers. No, those answers didn't get us elected, but we still have answers. The only narrative that's been articulated in the Democratic Party over the last 2 years is the one from the left. Former Delaware Governor Jack Markell told NBC News. I think we need a debate within the party, he added. Frankly, it would have been better to start the convention early. I agree that there needs to be a debate in the party, but I, from my position, thinks that your part needs to be vanquished. That's where I'm at. I'm thinking that this corporate wing, Wall Street wing of the party doesn't need to exist. And the fact of the matter is, how do you vote against Wall Street or the war complex when they're so ingrained into both parties? What do you do at that point? Where do you go? Yeah, the debate that needs to take place is not between the Republican and Democratic Party. The debate that needs to take place is what does it mean to be in the Democratic Party? And right now, based on the failures over the past X number of years, the corporate wing of the party is what the party looks like and is, in large part, why we have a Donald Trump in that office today. There was no left-wing answer to the stuff that was coming up. You chose Hillary Clinton in a populist year. The failure is yours. Right here. Pragmatism may be a suffer say. I love that! Because at the point where you've vanquished the left and you've drowned that baby in a bathtub using Cold War, Russia rhetoric and all this other stuff, there is nothing else. There is nothing further to the left than essentially a corporate Democrat that's okay with immigration of multiculturalism, because multiculturalism doesn't hurt anybody's profits, but not okay with the other stuff. So it's pragmatic. Since we've put a bar on the door of anything else further to the left in this is just the pragmatic approach. That's nonsense. is pragmatic because that's where they choose to draw the line. Fact of the matter is, many of these people are not even for Medicare for all. It's not pragmatic to be for Medicare for all. Yeah. It's not pragmatic for me to vote for you either. Let's keep going. The gathered here was just that, an effort to offer an attractive alternative, to put a corporate face on alternative to the rising Sanders-style populist left in the upcoming presidential race, where progressives see a rare opportunity to capitalize on an energetic Democratic base. Moderates see a better chance to win over Republicans turned off by Trump. They're still going for Republicans. They're still going for Republicans. Do I have my map up? I don't have my map up. I wanted to show, or I got rid of it. Damn. I've shown that image before of what the election map looked like, where Democrats, using strategies like this, lost it all. You're losing the Knuckledraggers. Do you understand that? Ralph Nader is completely right when he says you're losing to Knuckledraggers. You're unable to put up any level of real opposition to a group of people that eat with their mouths open. They probably don't even wash their hands afterwards. They're Knuckledraggers. Here's another thing, a great quote. The fact that a billionaire real estate developer, Winston Fisher, co-hosted the event and addressed attendees twice underscored this group is not interested in class warfare, vilifying the millionaires and billionaires found in Sanders' stump speech. You're not going to make me hate somebody just because they're rich. I want to be rich, Representative Tim Ryan, a potential presidential candidate, said Friday to Laughs. To Laughs, I love that. Which is the issue, right? A billionaire real estate developer co-hosted an event and addressed the attendees twice. Now, do you believe that he's addressing this from a neutral point of view, or is he addressing it because he has certain interests in mind that he wants to maintain, and his political alliances allow him to put forth a particular message? I guess what I'm getting across here is, whether you're a Trump supporter, whether you're a Bernie supporter, wherever you are in the political spectrum of independence, and I'll end it here. Do you want what you believe as policy affected because you're agitating and getting a political person to represent your interests? Or do you want this kind of shady backroom dealing where a small group, a top 1%, because of the money that they're investing and putting into political parties, into donations and those type of things, are able to pull the levers and pull the level of debate and the discourse into their direction, even when it's against the interests of the American public? Do you want this type of shady backroom dealing from the standpoint of politics, or do you want your representatives to represent you? Do you want capitalism or democracy? Both of those things sit uneasy together, especially when the democratic process goes into things that adversely affects their profits. These people are close to these Democrats because it allows them political influence. Do you want a small body of people to have that much of an outgoing influence based purely on the money that they're investing into the system? That's what I'm asking. At the end of the day, you're getting a bunch of talking points articulated through a Democratic group, Democratic Party, but the impetus of the stuff, whether it's issues of class, is coming from the people putting quarters in the back of them. That's problematic to this political process. You can't have an honest political process when a 1% is essentially controlling or heavily influencing the level of debate and the things that can even be debated in the first place. In this one glaring situation, you have several policy objectives of Sanders that are dramatically popular across the population, be it Republicans or Democrats. Expansion of Social Security, expansion of education benefit, Medicare for all. All of these things are extremely popular, even going into campaign finance laws. All of these things are popular. People believe that their political system is essentially hacked, or let's say cheated or shirked by a small body of human beings who are putting money in both parties in order to affect political will that is not necessarily the will of the population itself. I guess that's my basic point. this group of Democrats are going to try to literally attack legislation that is popular across the public itself. And they believe that, whatever they want to say, at the end of the day, there's a donor class that is in this meeting with them, in this fundraiser with them, glad-handing all of these people who are there and who are going to try to undermine those things. Even Medicare for All, where 70% of the public agrees with, that would cut down the amount that we're spending for healthcare. We spend twice as much around anywhere else around the globe. And even something that's as beneficial for that, again, will get shirked because it's not in the interest of, let's say, their donors. There's a top 1%. That top 1% has control over both political parties. And this is the wing that is going to be the avatar of that 1%'s will, particularly in trying to stop the legislation that Sanders and these other guys are trying to put forth. So I'm going to end this here because this one has gone a little bit long. But Democratic Party and its donors have gotten together to try to stop progressive legislation and policy. Just know. Just know. All of this nonsense about people organizing against Beto, it's not us. It's them in real terms. All right, guys. And this here, I love this. I blame Russia. I bet Putin was there too. George Pagog. I did all that. I blame Russia. I bet Putin was at that meeting. Yeah, Putin was also probably at that meeting. All right, guys. If you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all. I bet Putin was at the meeting. That's